hold up, I gotta say something. Black Lives Matter.
This is The Weekly Set, an official podcast of TheTotalScreen.com.
I wish I was the monster you think I am.
You have come here to beseech me.
Madness can be a medicine for the modern world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of The Total Screen. I'm your host. My name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is my partner in crime here at The Total Screen, William Rohrig.
Hello.
So, today we are recording episode 258 of the podcast. We are going to be discussing the Netflix series I Am Not Okay With This, from the creators of The End of the Fucking World and Stranger Things. There are some creatives from both of those involved. It kind of fits tonally in with a show like Stranger Things. Not completely. It's not the same exact demographic, but like it kind of has that like retro feel to it, small town kind of thing that kind of Netflix seems to excel at with a lot of their shows. You know, that kind of atmosphere. It's one of the ones they kind of work well with. It's 7-episode first season. It's been renewed for a second season. We don't have that yet. We don't know when we're getting that really yet. So first things first, just first impressions. When I talked to you earlier, when you were first watching it, you didn't seem to remark that it wasn't good so much as that you weren't relating to it.
And yeah, and I still feel that way. Like, I feel like I'd probably love this if I was a teenage girl. But I don't, unfortunately. And it's just, I think I'm just over teen drama shows. Like, I just don't care about teen drama. You gotta really, like, add something else to it to make it interesting. And this doesn't really do that, unfortunately.
Except the whole, like, psychic powers gone awry thing?
That's mostly like, yeah, but that's, yeah, but nothing really happens with that except, yeah, like.
I mean, a guy's head explodes at the end.
A nothing character's head explodes at the end, which is.
Well, like, I mean, out of like probably 7 characters worth even mentioning the name of, he's one of them, so.
He is, but he's just like a trope, and so that's why I called him like a nothing character, because all he is like literally like this tropey antagonist that only exists to push the plot along. Like,
I don't know if I can agree with that, just because I think that when they introduced him, his first introduction, he was very just like the tropey jock. What the fuck is her friend seeing in him kind of thing.
He's like that throughout the entire series.
I think in his heart he is, but there's a moment kind of towards the middle of the series where at least he's putting on airs that he's trying. He isn't, but he's like, he's putting off that he is. He's like, he's trying to become more friendly with Sydney.
You're talking about the detention episode.
Yeah. And he says he's trying to make an effort, and it gives you that momentary thing of like, oh, am I being lured into just seeing him as nothing but a trope? And now they're trying to expand upon that and say he's a person too, and he's trying to get this thing done. And I thought that the detention episode was great. It was like the Breakfast Club, basically.
Yeah, it was like the Breakfast Club, which is another movie I thought was boring.
Oh man. Oh, we can't be friends anymore. What's going on?
Oh no.
But like I think it made him seem like he was going to be more compelling and like not an antagonist, but like a broader character. But then they took a hard turn on him. Like they kind of, and it kind of fits into like a lot of kind of current things, I think, as far as like the idea of him being very, I don't know. I've mentioned to you before, like I hate kind of using the terminology.
White privilege.
It's very like white privilege. Yeah, it's like white male privilege.
That's obviously what they're going for with this character.
Yeah, I just hate using the terminology, but like that is exactly what it is, and that made it kind of shows like that in maybe its most disgusting form, you know, where he's just like horrible, and you really get that nailed home at the end by the point where like basically everybody's turned on him at that point, and then he's just becoming vile. He's just becoming a fucking troll, a sludge monster of just, you know, and it's apparent to everybody that he's hitting so hard on Sid, and then his fucking head just blows up.
Yeah, I just never found the character at all interesting. So, like, I mean, obviously, like...
Well, I don't think you have to find him interesting as a person because he's a tool, like you said, to move the plot forward.
Yeah, he's a tool to move the plot forward, which, like, I'm kind of like past the point where, like, I want more in my entertainment. I think I'm spoiled, like, with shows like...
Because we did the Lost rewatch, now you want character story and everything?
Yeah, exactly. I did the Lost rewatch, and I realized, like, how it's like Sawyer could have easily been the asshole jock, right?
Yeah.
But they invested in him and they gave him depth and, but I want more drama like that. I want to be conflicted about this guy's head exploding, like, it'd be more interesting.
See, I think what's more interesting is that I don't think I want to be interested in him and conflicted about his head exploding. I want to be conflicted more about what his head exploding means for the environment that she's at. Like, that happened right in front of her friend, who's now kind of like a burgeoning love interest. And that kind of like just happened before this ended up happening.
Oh, yeah.
There was like these troubles that she was having with this guy that clearly had a crush on her, that like was really interested in her, but as she's discovering her sexuality, it kind of doesn't fit. And they played him off as a very interesting character too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They did.
Stan, and made him interesting. And you feel bad for him. You're like, oh, but like, where's this going to go? What kind of like weird route is this going to go where they're not going to be able to talk about it, blah, blah. And it's like, instead, we had this cataclysmic event, this head explosion that just kind of shook everything. And just kind of like leaves everything at the end of the season kind of in like an area of uncertainty because it was primarily, besides the supernatural stuff, like a teen drama, everything kind of fits in the context of like normal reality within a town. And this event shatters that. I was
thinking this show feels like if the writer of Juno was hired to do a remake of Carrie. And this is what you would get.
See, I just had no problems with it. Like, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the character of Sid. I enjoyed the character of Stan.
Yeah. Like I said, Sid, and when we were talking about, like, the excellent character development, Sid and Stan is what you're talking about because they're the most developed. But, like, outside of that, it kind of, like, the character development kind of gets exponentially worse. Like, a lot of characters just aren't fully developed.
There's two others I want to mention. One is that amazing portrayal of Ricky, Brad's friend. No, just kidding.
Oh, what?
One is the relationship between Sid and her younger brother.
Yeah,
which I thought was a very good, very well developed and believable relationship.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And the kind of conflictive relationship between Sid and her mom. Maggie, who is like genuinely trying her best, but just isn't providing what Sid needs in that moment. And because of that, Sydney's being very dismissive of her mom. And like, there's like moments where like her mom just kind of snaps and says like, okay, yeah, you say like dad would have let you do this. Your dad killed himself. I'm here. I'm trying. I'm doing everything I can. And there's like that moment of like saying like, okay, this is the parent that stuck around for her and is actually there for her, but she just can't give her what she needs in that moment, And so I thought that created a really interesting family dynamic between the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also interesting the way they portrayed the father, who you even see him? Is there like a flashback or anything?
No.
Is there even like a picture you see or any? I can't remember anything.
There's nothing. Literally nothing.
He's just a complete blank slate, and it's all. I think that is to the show's credit because it makes it like an idealized image in Sid's head.
Yeah, it does that, and it also leaves like a mystery to explore, like which is fine. I mean, I found that element to be okay. I wish they did more with it in these 7 episodes, but the whole thing was building up to the Carrie moment. One thing I didn't appreciate, I wish they didn't. Speaking of the head explosion being impactful, I wish they didn't like telegraph that so much. Like
just the beginning scene of the whole series, right? As her covered in blood.
Yeah. So like some shit's gonna go down. So when the head explodes, you're kind of like, oh, okay, well that's what happened. More like, oh my fucking god! Like it's still kind of shocking, but some shit went down in the first place because the first scene is her running down the street covered in blood and like her prom dress.
Yeah.
So I I just wish, like, they didn't telegraph that. So, because then, like, that would have been more shocking.
That's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. Like, I've talked about this with friends before, where we've talked about kind of storytelling and stuff, and I said one of my favorite things is when you can go into something and know nothing about what it's going to be, and then it just completely surprises you by being something contrary to what you're prepared for. You know, like, and an example I used when I would talk to my friends was there's a movie called Hugo that was kind of advertised as this movie, like a kind of a, you know, Harry Potter-esque adventure, like not magic, but like, you know, it's about a young boy and he's having an adventure and there's some kind of stuff going on with it and there's an interesting cast and it's kind of like, oh, this will just be kind of like a, you know, scratch that same Harry Potter itch or something. But if you go to the movie, it's actually like a love letter to like early cinema. Mm-hmm. And when that becomes clear, it's like an amazing moment if you're into cinema. And I remember, cause I was like absolutely blown away. Like I went to school. I wouldn't say film school because it's just community college, but I was studying film and that's what I wanted to do originally. I wanted to be a director. So I was like really invested in things. Like I knew who these people are that they're referencing in Hugo and stuff. I knew like I'd seen these films that are being referenced in Hugo, but there's like a turning point in which that's revealed that that's what the movie really is that just blew me away because I had no idea it was coming. And it was something I cared so deeply about that when it hit me, it was like, it just shocked me, you know? I was just it became something I absolutely adored in the movie that like, if I'd known going in, my guard wouldn't have been down. I would have been expecting it to happen and it wouldn't be able to get it. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like, there's like a thing where you can hide what the actual thing that's going to happen is, but then you risk not getting watched or not having people stick with the show if it's, you know, if you're not clear about what the show is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like imagine if Stranger Things, to use another like Netflix show, like just kind of presented itself as just like some kids playing Dungeons and Dragons and hanging out in a small town and that's it.
Yeah, that would be boring as shit.
Well, like, but I'm saying like if it presented that like in the trailers and the opening scenes, like if you took out all that stuff and you just had it so that they ended up stumbling across 11 and all this stuff started happening and you're like, holy shit. But like you wouldn't be able to get those people that like it, wouldn't have tuned in the first place to see it if that wasn't up front.
Like, oh, this is a boring show about kids playing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not gonna watch this.
Exactly. You'd only catch a few people and then you'd get more people through word of mouth, but you'd get them because people would tell them what it's about and that would just ruin the surprise too.
Right.
So it's a really damned if you do, damned if you don't moment. Like I always, as a big fan of horror, I always thought it would be fascinating to make a movie that plays like a romantic comedy, that like you go in thinking is a romantic comedy and then just turns into a fucking horror movie. And like a legit horror movie, not like a parody, not like a reference. It's a straight up legit scary ass horror movie. And how your guard would be completely down. You wouldn't be ready for it. Right. And then it would happen and you'd be like, holy shit. And that moment would stick with you forever. But how could you get a movie like that made? Because like what studio is going to go, oh yeah, we'll do that. Cause then
like if they didn't show her covered in blood, if they didn't hint, like they could have still done the stuff with like the powers, but you wouldn't know like that she was going to straight up like murder somebody at the end. Like that would have been, oh my God, you know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like
it's a tricky territory where you like when you show something ahead, you're telling somebody stick around for the long haul. Something's coming.
Yeah,
if you don't do that, of course it's more satisfying when it happens, but if you don't do that, then
I feel like the reason they did that up front is because they're probably aware some people would be put off by the teen drama, and so they kind of want them to stick around for that.
Exactly. That's exactly what I think. Is that they have this undercurrent of this thing and they wanted it to be, it's building up to that in the show. Like I felt, I like you say that you watched it and it's like you need something else besides the teen drama. I felt it was permeated through the whole thing. Like to me, like I always felt like, oh, this is dangerous. Like she doesn't have control over this power. Like it's risky and she's hormonal. She's in that age where where like she's gonna have like, you know, like when you're young, you're not in control of yourself, you know? And I'm not saying that like in a creepy masculine way. I mean like period, like girls, guys, whatever. When you're in that age, you don't really have complete control of yourself. You'll say things that you would, you know, really regret, and you'll do things that you regret and stuff. And that's like that time in your life. And to like have that as an undercurrent of like something that dangerous that she has, I thought like permeated the whole show for me. So it's interesting to me that you didn't have that same reaction.
Here's the thing. Another thing about it is it's predictable. It's highly predictable. Every story beat you can guess is going to happen, and it happens exactly the way you guessed it. So, especially with that telegraphing, so you know so you know already she's gonna kill somebody at that prom, you know, like, so you watch it and you say like,
gonna happen at the prom.
Her powers are gonna go out of control. She's gonna get with the girl in the end. Like, that's gonna happen. That's gonna be a thing. Stan is going to like end up just being like, you know, like he's gonna be disappointed, but he's gonna be cool with it because that's his character. You know, obviously something bad is gonna happen to the jock. Like, he's gonna get his comeuppance. Like, I admit, like, probably, like, I had to think if somebody's gonna get murdered, it was probably gonna be him. I think like, the shadow guy that's like following her, you know, I think that's like actually her dad, and I'm probably gonna end up being right about that.
That seems like the most likely.
Yeah. It feels like you can predict everything, so there's no curveballs, really.
But does that just mean that they properly foreshadowed things?
No,
that's the other way of looking at it.
It just means it's following the tropes. Like, if you just look at the tropes, then it's like, yeah, this is what's gonna happen. You can map it out. And it's kind of like, you know, like you get surprises when your expectations are subverted, and they're never subverted in the entirety of these 7 episodes. Like, it's like I said,
not many shows do subvert expectations anymore, though. We've kind of seen everything, you know?
There's some decent writing. It's got a good premise, but yeah, it doesn't really like do much to like subvert your expectations around that premise. It pretty much plays the story straight. And you say that, but I don't know. Like I just thought it could have been more interesting, is all I thought. But I don't know. I don't think it's like a bad show or anything. I think it's okay. Like I'm okay with this.
Pun master here, the Punisher. Yeah, I think I like this a lot more than you did. I thought I felt the feelings of danger were permeating throughout it, but it didn't feel like a series full of dread because Sid and Stan were compelling characters. They were interesting,
right,
you know?
Right.
And because of them and because of the kind of family dynamic with Sid and her little brother and her mom and all of that stuff, and I think they nailed the kind of like small town atmosphere too. Because of all those things together, the show was like a breezy watch for me. It was entertaining and fun to go through.
Like I said, the show, for the most part, plays like a quirky indie teen comedy until she murders somebody at the prom, and then
But it's not slow like a quirky, like a lot of those shows are too slow, and that's what makes them really bad, you know?
This is actually kind of slow, to be honest.
I don't think so at all.
Because not much happens. Like, obviously, like stuff happens where like she knocks stuff over with her powers, and like it that builds and builds. But I think it doesn't feel slow to you just because like it is just 7 like mostly 20-minute episodes, so there's not like a lot of screen time attached to this.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, 20 to 30 minutes, let's say 27 minutes on average or something, you're talking about basically like the length of a movie, you know? Like a long movie, that's all the content that's in there. I think in that time, there's quite a bit that does happen. Like, you can say like not a lot happened, but I mean, if they'd crammed more in, I think it would have been like weird. I think they kind of made use of their time, like, effectively. Like, there'll be moments like, you know, Stan and Sid get kind of an argument and they're upset with each other and stuff. And like, in like a CW teen drama kind of show, that would cover like the span of like 12 episodes and be really boring and uninteresting. And here it's like half an episode or an episode.
Yeah, if they drag out the uninteresting stuff, it will be uninteresting. You're right.
But what I'm trying to say is that like, I can't see that as a problem when it's over in like 15 minutes. You know, it's like, it's a moment of tension in their relationship and then it's over. It's past it.
It just didn't do it for me. That's all.
Yeah. Well, not everything's going to be for everybody. That's just the way things are, you know. But, yeah. Will coming in hard on the last couple shows.
We're betting 1,000 here. I hope Space Force does something for me.
Based on reviews, he might not.
I don't think so. I'm not hopeful, although I do love Steve Carell.
Yeah.
I do love The Office. Like, I'm kind of hopeful, but at the same time, I'm looking at the reviews.
Don't go into it expecting The Office. That's not what it is.
Okay. I'll be sorely
I think a lot of people that are disappointed went in thinking it was going to be The Office.
It was going to be The Office again.
That's not what it is. It's kind of more of a, we're talking about a different show now. We're going to be talking about next week, but it's kind of a, it's got a little bit of heart to it. It's got a few little kind of stabby current jokes, but not that many, just kind of a few like kind of under the radar ones.
Yeah, I heard.
And then it has like a really amazing, silly second episode that, you know, some people are going to hate and some people are going to absolutely adore.
Yeah,
I fall into the adore crowd.
It's not really biting in its satire.
No, it's not. That's not what it's trying to be, though. It's not like it's trying to be biting and failing. It's not even going for that. Like, it's just trying to, like, it's kind of more silly and fun, but then it's playing on the idea of like, okay, yeah, this is like a stupid idea by our dumbest president. So they don't dwell on that. Like, yes, the president's still there and he's still stupid and there's still comedy coming from that, but the story becomes like, well, these people, they have to do this now. And how are they going to do this? And how are they going to make it so that you're rooting for them when you don't like the president that put this into effect, you know?
Right.
And so you have this kind of, this stupid goal that everybody laughs at when they hear about it that the president announced. And the realization of doing this. Now, how do you turn that into something you can actually root for? You know? And I think the way they did it is by putting characters in these positions where you kind of care about them. It's not like mind-blowing character drama by any means, but like you care about them. You're concerned about the things that they're dealing with and you want to see them succeed just because they've had troubles and they've had moments where they weren't, you know, and you're like, you want them to succeed and be happy. So it's kind of more like that kind of vibe than like a biting sarcasm or even like Office style comedy. It's not really like that.
Okay, right.
Though this, like I said, the second episode is just a really silly, funny episode. So if you want just like really silly, stupid comedy, you know, like something you get from Dwight in The Office or something, like the episode 2 is probably going to be what you like. But I don't know beyond that.
Okay. Well, I'll check it out and we'll see what happens. We'll see what I think.
So another short episode. We'll call it off here.
It was a short series.
Short discussion. We'll talk about, so we did, upload last week. We did I'm Not Okay With It this week. Next week we're doing Space Force, as we mentioned. Week after that we're going to do something that I'm hoping you're going to be more happy with, which is season 2 of What We Do in the Shadows.
I should be, unless it's a huge drop in, like, it's like, it would have to be like a precipitous drop in quality.
Or like your standards have just so changed that like you no longer can enjoy that.
Oh
show.
yeah, I no longer. Maybe I'm just dead inside now.
Yeah, you are clearly.
Yeah,
you're dead inside. It's like the episode of South Park where Stan, like, everything became like shit to him.
Yeah,
it was like this depressing ending to the episode. You're in that state right now.
I'm in that state, yeah.
Yeah. So that's it for this episode. The last thing to talk about is what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. On Wednesday, June 10th, Bulletproof comes to the CW, Quran to Netflix, Reality Z to Netflix. Wednesday, June 11th, The Bold Type to Freeform, Whispers to Netflix. Friday, June 12th, Crossing Swords comes to Hulu. That's from the people behind Robot Chicken. It's kind of a parody of like fantasy movies done in like the Robot Chicken style.
Oh, cool.
F is for Family returns to Netflix, another animated show. And The Search comes to Netflix. On Saturday, June 13th, Alexa and Kate returns to Netflix. On Sunday, June 14th, Grantchester comes to PBS, as does Beecham House, a new miniseries. And Marcella comes to Netflix. On Tuesday, June 16th, One Day at a Time has an animated special on Pop. That was a series that started on Netflix and then got canceled and picked up by Pop. It's kind of like the reverse Netflix save. Wednesday, June 17th, Mr. Iglesias returns to Netflix. Thursday, June 18th, The Bureau comes to Sundance Now, and The Order returns to Netflix. Friday, June 19th, Love, Victor comes to Hulu. That's kind of like a spiritual sequel to Love, Simon, which was like a movie that Greg Berlanti did like last year. You hear about that movie? You remember it being advertised or anything?
I think so.
It was about like a guy who was gay, and like it was about his coming out to his family and his friends and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this like romantic high school thing or something like that. This is kind of like the same thing but with like a different character. It's kind of a remake but not, like they changed the name.
Oh, I know what this is.
Okay.
This was actually supposed to be on Disney Plus, but apparently like it was too extreme for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Some shit.
Too many adult things, too gay for Disney Plus.
Yeah, too gay for Disney Plus, apparently.
Yeah.
So they moved it to Hulu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
that's the show. So that's Love, Victor. Also, Most Beautiful Thing comes to Netflix, and The Politician returns for its second season on Netflix. That's The Politician was Ryan Murphy's first show from his Netflix deal. We've already had a season of that, and we've had a season of his second show, Hollywood, and now Politician is having its second season on Netflix. On Sunday, June 21st, The Chi comes to Showtime. This is about, The Chi meaning Chicago. I think it's second or third season. I'm not sure. Nosferatu returns to AMC for its second season. That's from the creator of Lock and Key, Joe Hill. Perry Mason, a new miniseries, comes to HBO. That might be interesting because it's a HBO miniseries, which are almost always good to some extent,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think they're ever really bad. Like, they just might not be as good as something else. But it's also, it's got the star of, one of the stars of The Americans, which was a really good show. And this is his next big role, where he's playing Perry Mason. So, and kind of an iconic character too. So, it'll be interesting to see that. I'm interested for that. And then Yellowstone, the kind of modern day kind of ranch western starring Kevin Costner returns to Paramount. So that's it. That's what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. As we mentioned already, next week we're going to be talking about Space Force. So, check that out. Until then, you can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, as well as our site, thetotalscreen.com. You can subscribe to the podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast. And the entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
If you would like to reach out to us and make a comment, send an email to contact@thetotalscreen.com. Stay tuned to The Total Screen for the very best in genre television.